The most convincing time traveler stories imagine a world where time is not a straight line, where the past and future brush against each other in fleeting, impossible moments. A world where ordinary people encounter the extraordinary men and women who claim to have walked out of the future, glimpsed the past, or seen history unfold through devices that defy imagination. What if time travel were real, not just a dream of science fiction, but something that has touched our world in strange and mysterious ways? The evidence is scattered, the accounts sometimes strange, sometimes terrifying, but all carry a weight of possibility and emotional truth. In this journey, we will explore 5 of the most convincing time traveler stories ever recorded. Each story is filled with wonder, mystery, and human emotion, leaving us questioning what we know about reality itself. 1. John Titor, the soldier from 2036. A man who claimed to come from a future we cannot yet see, warning humanity of what may come. 2. Rudolph Fuentes, the man who appeared in Times Square, the mysterious man appearing suddenly in the 1950s, dressed in clothing from the 19th century as if plucked from history itself. 3. Andrew Carlson, the 250-year-old investor, a man arrested by the FBI for impossible stock market predictions, claiming to be from the distant future. 4. The Versailles time slip. 2 women lost in 1901, a fleeting and emotional encounter in the gardens of Versailles, where 2 women appeared out of time, leaving witnesses stunned. 5. The Vatican chronovisor, a hidden time machine, a secret device said to allow monks to witness history itself, capturing events long past with stunning clarity and immense emotional weight. These stories are more than strange anecdotes. They are emotional journeys, exploring human curiosity, wonder, fear, and the profound weight of knowledge. Some may be hoaxes, some may be mysteries, but each offers a glimpse into the fragile boundary between past, present, and future. Prepare to step into a world where time bends, history whispers, and ordinary lives brush against the impossible. These are the stories that challenge our understanding of reality and leave us forever changed by the possibilities of time itself. Part 1. John Titor, the soldier from 2036. It was the year 2000, and the internet was still a new frontier. Forums buzzed with discussion, but no one expected the arrival of a post that would shake the world's understanding of time itself. A man claiming to be John Titor, a soldier from the year 2036, appeared online. His words were calm, precise, and chilling. He spoke not as a conspiracy theorist, but as someone describing events he had lived through, a future torn by civil war, nuclear disaster, and technological revolution. He claimed he had traveled back in time on a government time machine built to observe history, retrieve lost technology, and prevent cataclysm. Imagine a man who claims to come from a future yet to exist. A future of war, despair, and survival. John Titor did not arrive with a dramatic explosion or a Hollywood spectacle. He arrived quietly through the invisible threads of the internet. With every word, he challenged the world's understanding of time. Was he a fraud, a storyteller with uncanny predictions? Or was he, somehow, the first glimpse of a reality beyond our time? The evidence, the consistency of his warnings, and the personal details he shared made believers wonder. Could time itself have a traveler among us? I will not see my daughter grow up, he confessed. I will not know if the world I come from will survive. But perhaps, by warning you, some lives can be spared. In that moment, he ceases to be just a mysterious figure online. He becomes a mirror of our fears, hopes, and the fragile nature of time itself. Part 2. The warnings and predictions of John Titor. John Titor's posts weren't just stories. They were precise, chilling, and sometimes eerily specific. He spoke of a civil war in the United States, a conflict that would reshape society, divide communities, and test the strength of every family. He warned of nuclear strikes, blackouts, and the collapse of infrastructure. Many dismissed him at first. The internet is filled with imaginative minds, and the year 2000 was no exception. But Titor's predictions went beyond politics. He described personal, human moments in the future. Children learning in makeshift classrooms, families gathering around scarce candles, neighbors sharing food in the ruins of cities. These were snapshots of survival, heartbreak, and resilience, images that felt painfully real. John Titor didn't just warn of destruction, he painted a future in which humanity endured. He spoke not of heroes or villains, but of ordinary people, striving to survive against impossible odds. Every detail, every prediction was a message. History is fragile, and time is more than a line. It is a web that connects us all. For those who read his words, it wasn't just curiosity that gripped them, it was fear, awe, and a sense of intimacy with someone who had already seen the end of our world and returned to tell the tale. "I will never see my wife smile again," he wrote. "I will never hear my daughters laugh. This is my burden, my penance, and perhaps my gift to you." It's here that the story transcends mystery. It becomes a meditation on humanity, choice, and the cost of knowledge. The time traveler isn't a figure of power. He is fragile, emotional, and painfully human, reminding us that even the most extraordinary events are experienced through ordinary hearts. Part 3. The world reacts. Believers, skeptics. And the lingering mystery, as John Titor's posts spread across forums and early internet communities. Reactions were explosive and polarizing. Some readers were captivated, hanging on every word as if history itself were whispering through the screen. Others scoffed, dismissing him as a clever hoax, a viral prank decades before viral was a word people used. And what kept the story alive and haunting was the convincing detail and emotional honesty. Titor didn't just post facts. He shared feelings, regrets, and warnings that made readers pause, reflect, and shiver. John Titor became more than a name on a forum. He became a mirror for our fears, our hopes, and our deepest curiosities. Some saw a warning, others saw a story, and some saw both. But everyone who encountered his words felt the gravity of time pressing against their hearts. Could one man truly travel through time? Could someone witness the collapse of society and yet speak to us decades before it happened? The world may never know. But the impact of his message, painful, haunting, and strangely human, remains undeniable. Here's the haunting part. Whether he was real or not, the story forces us to confront our own humanity. It asks, what would we do if we truly knew the future? How far would we go to warn others? And how much of ourselves are we willing to sacrifice to leave a mark on time? Part 4. Disappearance and the unanswered questions after months of posting. John Titor vanished as suddenly as he had appeared. No farewell message. No trace beyond the archives of forum posts. The digital footprints of a man who claimed to have seen the future faded into the void of the early internet, leaving readers both fascinated and haunted. What remained were his predictions, his warnings, and his deeply human reflections. Scholars, journalists, and conspiracy theorists scrambled to verify his claims. Some of his technological predictions came true in subtle ways. Others remain unexplained, yet no one could account for the man himself. John Titor disappeared, but his story did not. His warnings, his predictions, and the echo of his words lingered in the hearts of those who encountered them. Some called him a fraud, some a genius, and some a traveler lost between the seconds of time itself. Yet perhaps that is the essence of his tale, not the proof of time travel, not the accuracy of predictions, but the reminder that our choices, our humanity, and the bonds we forge across time are what truly matter. John Titor may have left, but the questions he posed, the emotions he awakened, remain with us forever. "I am a traveler," he wrote, "but also a father. I cannot see the world I left behind, but I can speak to those who will follow. Perhaps you will choose differently." In the silence of his disappearance, viewers are left with an emotional truth. Time is not just a concept. It is lived, felt, and carried in the hearts of every person who dares to imagine it. Part 5. The legacy of John Titor. Even decades later, John Titor's story refuses to fade. His posts have become digital relics, studied by historians, tech enthusiasts, and the endlessly curious. Yet the real power of his tale, ESNT and the predictions at S and the human story behind them. He is a reminder that time is more than science. It is emotion, sacrifice, and the choices we make every day. The soldier from 2036 left no physical trace, no monuments, only words that echo through the corridors of history and the imagination. John Titor may have been a traveler lost to time, a storyteller, or something far beyond our understanding. What he gave us was not proof, but a gift, a mirror to our choices, our hopes, and our humanity. In the end, the soldier from 2036 is not remembered for his machine, his predictions, or the mystery he left behind. He is remembered because he reminded us that every moment matters, that time is fragile, and that the human heart is capable of courage, sacrifice, and hope across every second. Every year, every lifetime, if someone could truly see the future, what would they do? What choices today could change the world tomorrow? And who, if anyone, might be watching us from a time yet to come? John Titor's tale ends not with answers, but with a heartbeat of emotion, lingering like a whisper from the edge of time itself. Story 2, Part 1. The Man Who Appeared from the Past. It was a busy evening in Times Square, New York, 1950. Neon lights flickered, taxis honked, and crowds hustled along the bustling sidewalks. Life moved quickly, oblivious to the impossible event that was about to unfold. Mid the chaos, a man suddenly appeared disoriented, out of place, and utterly alone. He was dressed in 19th century clothing, a suit with a vest, a pocket watch in hand, and a top hat slightly askew. His eyes darted nervously, absorbing a world he had never known. And as quickly as he appeared, he was struck by a taxi and killed instantly. The crowd screamed, rushed to the scene. But the man's identity and origin would spark a mystery that still haunts historians today. On an ordinary night in Times Square, a man from another era appeared out of nowhere. He carried relics of a past long gone, coins, letters, tickets. How could a man perfectly preserved from decades earlier suddenly walk into the present? The world he knew had vanished, replaced by skyscrapers, cars, and neon lights. And yet he had somehow arrived intact, if only for a fleeting moment. Was he a ghost, a traveler, or something science cannot yet explain? What is clear is that his brief presence left a mark on everyone who saw him, and a story that would baffle generations. Story 2, Part 2. The investigation and the evidence after Rudolph Fuentes was struck by the taxi. The scene became a swirl of panic, sirens, and chaos. But what police discovered sent shockwaves through those who examined the case. This was not an ordinary accident. What they found on him was a puzzle that defied time itself. The evidence left behind by Rudolph Fuentes defied logic. Coins from a century ago, letters never sent, receipts for theaters long closed, all in the pockets of a man who had no existence in the decades that had passed. How could a man vanish from one time and appear in another, fully formed, carrying the relics of his own impossible journey? The investigation offered no answers, only more questions. And with every unanswered question, the story grew darker, stranger, and heartbreakingly human. He did not know this new world a narrator might reflect. He did not understand the cars, the lights, the noise. And yet he faced it alone for a moment, before life itself ended in a cruel twist of fate. The story forces viewers to confront the fragility of human existence, the weight of time, and the terrifying idea that even a single man could be out of place in the universe itself. Story 2, Part 3. The mystery deepens as the investigation continued. Rudolph Fuentes' story grew stranger and more haunting. Experts and historians were drawn to the case, trying to piece together a life that seemingly never existed. Every attempt to trace his origins led to dead ends. No census records, no family files. No trace of him in the decades before 1950. It was as if he had stepped out of history itself. Rudolph Fuentes remains one of the most enigmatic figures in the history of the impossible. Did he step from the 19th century into 1950 by some quirk of fate? Was he the victim of a cosmic accident? Or was this a story crafted to test our belief in reality itself? The man who walked into Times Square carried with him the echoes of a lifelong past, yet touched the hearts of everyone who glimpsed him. His story is not just about time, it is about the fragility of existence and the human desire to understand the impossible. Imagine a life interrupted, the narrator might reflect. A man plucked from his era, only to become a mystery in another. His story reminds us that time is not just a line we follow, it is a force that can confound, displace, and humble even the most ordinary life. Story 2, Part 4. Legacy and the unanswered questions, even decades later. Rudolph Fuentes' story continues to captivate, baffle, and haunt those who encounter it. Scholars, time travel enthusiasts, and ordinary readers alike are drawn to the mystery. How could a man vanish from one century and appear in another, fully formed, with tangible relics of a past long gone? Despite exhaustive research, no definitive answers exist. Every lead hits a wall: no census records, no birth or death certificates, no trace of family. The man simply appeared, lived for a few fleeting moments in 1950, and then was gone forever. Rudolf Fuentes disappeared into history as suddenly as he appeared. Yet his story endures, a ghostly reminder that time is not merely a measure of seconds, but a tapestry of lives, choices, and moments, some of which may slip through the cracks entirely. We may never know how he traveled or why he appeared, but in imagining his fear, confusion, and fleeting moments in a world not his own, we glimpse something profound. The fragile human heart, tossed by the tides of time, still longing for understanding, connection, place. Every life has its place in time, the narrator might reflect. But some, like Rudolf Fuentes, remind us that time itself can be cruel, mysterious, and deeply moving. Story 3, Part 1. The man who beat time itself in the early 2000s. The financial world was rocked by a story that sounded too incredible to be true. A man named Andrew Carlson appeared on Wall Street, making trades so impossibly precise that he turned $800 into $350 million in just 2 weeks. It wasn't luck, it wasn't skill. Every prediction he made about the stock market was uncannily accurate, down to the smallest detail. Regulators and journalists were baffled. What is this man, and where did his knowledge come from? Andrew Carlson's story is not just about money, it's about time itself. A man who claimed to have seen centuries pass, who understood the flow of history with such clarity that the present became a canvas for his actions. His calm, measured words contrasted with the frenzy of the stock market, hinting at a mind that was not bound by the constraints of our era. Was he a fraud, a genius, or truly a traveler from a future we cannot yet comprehend? The evidence may never be conclusive, but the emotional impact of his story resonates far beyond dollars and cents. Challenges our very understanding of human potential in the passage of time. I know what could happen, he said, but I cannot always stop it. I can only watch and learn. Even in the heart of greed and ambition, his story introduces a human element of responsibility, fear, an awe-time traveler who feels the weight of centuries on his shoulders. Story 3, Part 2. The investigation and the confession. When the second investigators finally confronted Andrew Carlson, the tension in the room was palpable. Every number, every prediction, every trade he had made was accurate to an impossible degree. For regulators trained to see patterns and detect fraud, Carlson's success was beyond comprehension. I cannot reveal everything, he admitted, for some knowledge is too dangerous for this era. But I can show glimpses, enough to understand patterns, to see the consequences of human action. To the investigators, Andrew Carlson's story seemed impossible, but the calm certainty in his eyes suggested a man who had lived beyond the boundaries of ordinary time, who carried the knowledge of centuries without arrogance, yet with the quiet weight of responsibility. In confessing his age and origin, he did not boast, did not demand belief. He simply offered a glimpse into a life lived across centuries, a life of observation, caution, and emotional burden, far beyond what any ordinary human could bear. I have seen mistakes repeated across centuries, he confessed, and yet I am powerless to change everything. I can only act where I may, and hope that those I encounter will make better choices. In the quiet moments between trades and confessions, viewers can feel the isolation, the moral weight, and the emotional gravity of living beyond time itself. Story 3, Part 3. Fallout and public fascination. Once word of Andrew Carlson's confession began to leak, the story exploded. Newspapers, financial analysts, and the public were captivated by the impossible narrative of a man claiming to be 250 years old. Some hailed him as a visionary, others branded him a fraud. But amid the debate, one truth remained undeniable. The story gripped hearts and minds because it forced people to confront the unimaginable. Andrew Carlson's story is more than numbers and claims. It is a meditation on human ambition, curiosity, and the weight of knowledge. How does a man live when he has seen centuries pass, witnessed the consequences of every human choice, and yet must remain silent, powerless to fully intervene? The public marveled, speculated, and debated. Yet beneath the sensational headlines lies the true story. A man alone, burdened with insight, wandering the corridors of time, observing the world with the detached empathy of one who has seen it all. To know the future is a gift and a curse, Carlson's imagined voice reflects. I see what could be, what will be, and what must never happen. But I am alone in this knowledge, and the burden is mine to bear. Story 3, Part 4. The unanswered questions and legacy, even after investigations concluded. Andrew Carlson's story left the world with more questions than answers. Was he truly a man from the 23rd century? Was it a cleverly constructed hoax? Or was there some force of time and fate beyond human understanding at play? No one can say for sure. What remains is the emotional resonance of a man who claimed to have lived centuries, yet faced the same moral dilemmas and loneliness as anyone else. Andrew Carlson vanished from public view, leaving a trail of questions that may never be answered. Did he truly come from the future, or was it a story meant to challenge our understanding of time? Perhaps the answer is less important than the emotional truth his story conveys. He reminds us that knowledge carries responsibility, that foresight can be both a gift and a burden, and that even a man who walks beyond time is not free from the weight of humanity. Time may be infinite, but human life is not, the narrator reflects. And in that fragile space, the stories of men like Andrew Carlson remind us of the courage, fear, and wonder that come with walking between the seconds. Story 4, Part 1. A step back in time. It was a quiet afternoon in Versailles, France, 1901, when two women strolled along the palace gardens. Sunlight danced on the fountains, and the scent of roses filled the air. They were modern women, dressed in early 20th century attire, yet something about them seemed out of place. According to eyewitnesses, the women suddenly appeared, walking calmly through the gardens as if nothing had changed in decades. But their appearance was unsettling. Their fashion and mannerisms were distinctly modern, and they carried objects unfamiliar to the locals. Within moments, the women vanished, leaving witnesses stunned and historians baffled. In the gardens of Versailles, two women appeared as if from another world. Their clothing, their mannerisms, even the objects they carried, belonged to a future yet to come. For the locals, it was a moment of confusion and awe. For historians, it remains a puzzle that defies explanation. How could two women step across time, leaving only fleeting traces behind? Were they travelers, observers, or victims of some temporal anomaly? The story raises questions about the nature of reality and the fragility of human perception in the face of the impossible. They walked the gardens, unaware of the chaos their presence caused. Unaware of the centuries that separated them from everyone else, the narrator might reflect. And then, as suddenly as they appeared, they were gone, leaving behind only questions, wonder, and the echo of a mystery that endures to this day. Story 4, Part 2. Witnesses and artifacts after the sudden disappearance of the two women. Witnesses were left stunned and confused. Local journals and police records, though sparse, captured their shock, curiosity, and lingering fear. The women vanished, but their presence lingered in the minds of those who saw them. Objects that did not belong, sketches of inventions yet to come, and a manner of being that seemed centuries ahead, these fragments challenged the very notion of reality. Each witness recounted the event with a mixture of fear and wonder. Could a moment in time be breached, allowing visitors from the future to step into the past? Or was this a fleeting trick of the mind, a shared hallucination that would haunt the observers forever? To witness someone from another time is to feel your own place in history unravel, the narrator reflects. The two women, calm yet out of place, reminded those around them of the vast unknown that stretches beyond human comprehension, leaving a whisper of mystery that echoes even today. Story 4, Part 3. Theories and cultural impact. The mysterious appearance of the two women in Versailles left the town and history itself grappling with possibilities. Scholars, historians, and paranormal researchers have debated the event for over a century, offering several theories. The women of Versailles vanished as mysteriously as they appeared, leaving behind relics and memories that challenge our understanding of time. Were they accidental travelers, visionaries, or witnesses to a secret doorway through history? We may never know. Yet the story endures, not for its proof, but for the emotional truth it carries. That time is fragile, life is fleeting, and sometimes the impossible brushes against us in a way we can never forget. To witness a time slip is to feel your place in history dissolve, the narrator might reflect. The two women were gone, yet their presence lingers an echo of mystery that whispers across the centuries, reminding us of the thin veil between what we know and what we cannot imagine. Story 4, Part 4. The Haunting Legacy. The story of the two women in Versailles does not end with their disappearance. For over a century, it has haunted the minds of those who study it, leaving behind questions with no answers and a lingering sense of wonder. The women vanished, but their story remains alive in our imagination. Time slipped for them, if only for a moment, reminding us that the world is larger and stranger than we often dare to believe. Perhaps they were travelers, perhaps visions, or perhaps something beyond our understanding entirely. What endures is not the certainty of their origin, but the emotional truth of their appearance, the awe, the fear, and the unshakable sense that history itself had shifted, if only briefly. We may never solve the mystery, the narrator reflects, but in imagining their footsteps along the palace gardens and feeling the brush of another era against our own, we remember the wonder and the fragility of being alive in a world that is larger than we can ever comprehend. The story leaves viewers emotionally touched, pondering the vastness of time and the delicate threads that connect past, present, and future. Story 5, Part 1. The Vatican's hidden window into time deep within the Vatican. In a restricted chamber that few have ever glimpsed, there is said to exist a machine unlike any other, the chronovisor. According to reports, this device is capable of viewing moments from history as if they were unfolding in real time, capturing events centuries old with startling clarity. The story begins in the 1950s, when Father Pellegrino Ernetti, Benedictine monk and physicist, claimed to have helped construct the chronovisor, a device that could witness the past without altering it. The chronovisor is not just a machine, it is a bridge across centuries, a mirror that reflects the triumphs, tragedies, and truths of humanity. To witness history firsthand is to confront the weight of existence itself. Father Ernetti described moments so vivid, so human, that those who viewed them felt a profound connection to the people, the choices, and the events of long ago. It is a story that blurs the line between technology, faith, and the human longing to understand time itself. I have seen what men have done and what men have suffered, Ernetti reflected. And in that seeing, I am changed forever. Knowledge is not always a gift, it can be a burden too heavy for the heart. The story leaves viewers contemplating the fragility of human perspective, the weight of history, and the emotional cost of truly knowing the past. Story 5, Part 2. Witnessing history, Father Ernetti claimed that the chronovisor could tune into specific moments in time, capturing events from centuries past with uncanny detail. He described seeing Julius Caesar in the Roman Senate, hearing the debates and footsteps as if he were there. He watched the coronation of Charlemagne, the crowd cheering and the sound of trumpets ringing across the centuries. Most famously, he claimed to witness the crucifixion of Jesus, capturing not just images but the sounds of the crowd, the anguish, and the final moments in astonishing clarity. The machine, according to Ernetti, was not merely for observation, it was an emotional and moral experience, confronting the viewer with the human reality of history. The chronovisor allowed Father Ernetti to witness history in ways no human had before. He saw the triumphs, the horrors, and the ordinary moments that made civilizations rise and fall. And in seeing, he bore the emotional weight of those lives across time. History, he realized, is not just dates and events, it is human hearts, choices, and suffering. To observe it is to feel it, intimately and painfully, as if the centuries themselves were pressing upon your soul. I cannot give this to the world, Ernetti said. Some truths are too heavy, some visions too profound. To see history is to carry it forever. The story leaves viewers emotionally stirred, reflecting on the delicate balance between curiosity, knowledge, and the human heart. Story 5, Part 3. Secrets, Silence, and Legacy. Despite the astounding claims, the chronovisor was never publicly revealed. The Vatican, according to Ernetti, kept the device hidden to protect humanity from the burden of knowledge. Scholars and journalists who tried to investigate encountered dead ends, missing records, and denials. Father Ernetti spent his later years guarding the secret, aware that some truths were too powerful, too emotionally overwhelming, to share freely. Allegedly, the device itself was dismantled or hidden, leaving only testimonies, photographs, and accounts as evidence. Some knowledge is not a gift, Ernetti warned. It is a burden that shapes the soul, and some truths can only be born in silence. The chronovisor reminds us that history is not just a record of events, it is alive with human emotion. Every smile, every tear, every act of courage and folly is captured in the invisible threads of time. Father Ernetti carried these threads alone, witnessing humanity in its fullest expression, and bearing the emotional weight of truths no one else could see. His story challenges us to consider the power and burden of knowledge, and the fragile beauty of life itself. We may never see the chronovisor, the narrator reflects, but in imagining its visions, we glimpse the vast, uncharted ocean of time and the fragile human hearts navigating it. Story 5 Part 4. The haunting reflections. The story of the chronovisor ends not with answers, but with questions that linger like shadows. Did the Vatican truly witness history through a machine? Were the photographs and audio recordings genuine, or the product of imagination and secrecy? The mystery itself is part of the emotional power, a reminder that some truths are too vast, too human, to ever be fully contained. The chronovisor reminds us that history is not merely a record of events, it is lived experience, carrying emotion, consequence, and the weight of human existence. To witness it is to feel both the beauty and the tragedy of humanity. Father Ernetti bore this knowledge alone, a solitary guardian of time's secrets. And though the device may be gone, the emotional legacy endures. A profound meditation on the fragility of life, the persistence of memory, and the boundless mysteries of the past. We may never witness the past as Father Ernetti did, the narrator concludes. But in imagining it, we touch something eternal. The triumphs, the sorrows, and the fragile beauty of being human across time.